Ukrainian President Volodomyr Zelesnkyy will travel to Saudi Arabia Monday for talks with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The two are set to meet in the Red Sea city of Jeddah and discuss the ongoing invasion of Ukraine, as well as a path forward for the war-torn nation's relationship with the U.S.
You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now.
The now infamous late February Oval Office meeting between Zelenskyy and U.S. President Donald Trump, sending decades of diplomacy between the two nations out the window. Days after, Trump also announced a full pause of military aid shipments to the country and intelligence sharing with Kyiv. The U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will also be heading to Jeddah this week. The Saudis say they hope to bridge the divide between the two countries, but experts say that will be no easy feat.
Or for the Americans, a bad deal is better than no deal. But for the Ukrainians, a bad deal is worse than no deal. And that is a fundamental tension between the two.
Trump has been more or less pressuring Zelenskyy to accept what he's calling a rare earth minerals deal, which would see the U.S. gain access to Ukraine's natural resources in return for certain security assurances. Trump said earlier this week that he'd received a letter from Zelenskyy showing a willingness to sign the deal. But Zelenskyy says his country is simply fully committed to further dialogue with U.S. representatives.
This negotiation has been forced and imposed, and it hasn't necessarily been on Ukraine's terms. So I think that they are playing a waiting game to see if the situation will relent somewhat, the pressure will relent somewhat, the conditions are better for entering into negotiations, rather than rushing into it simply because on the whim of the U.S. president.
Zelenskyy announcing Saturday that he himself would not be at the upcoming talks with U.S. representatives. He has instead selected a high-level delegation of Ukrainian officials who will attend the meeting.